Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video I will be breaking down the Washington Commanders 2022 90-man roster after the draft. So I'll go position by position and give you guys my thoughts about that position group, maybe some surprise cuts and some other things. So if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe for Washington and NFL content. I'm close to 8,000 subscribers, so I really would appreciate it if you guys could help me get there. Also, hit that like button and turn on those notifications so you never miss a video. It really does help out the channel. Also, go ahead and follow the Twitter. Link is in the description. Now, let's get right into the video. Also, guys, comment down below what position groups you are concerned with for the Washington Commanders. So I know a lot of people are going to say linebacker, but also give me a couple other position groups that you are still concerned with. So, it's been a couple weeks since the NFL draft, and you kind of know what the roster is going to look like for the Washington Commanders. They have about 90 players on the roster. So, this roster is going to be pretty much what it's going to look like heading into training camp and preseason. There's going to be a few, kind of undrafted free agents or other guys that might get cut so that they can bring in some more veterans, because I think they will address some positions like linebacker and maybe get in a couple other veterans at other positions, because this is not going to be their final 90-man roster before cuts get through. They're going to add guys for sure. There's no doubt about it. But for the most part, this is what the roster is going to look like this season. So we're going to go ahead and break it down. I got this idea from The Entertainer, who is a great Giants YouTuber. He posted this video about a week ago, and I thought it was a good idea. So let's get started. So we'll start off with quarterback. The quarterbacks on the roster: Carson Wentz, Taylor Heinicke, Sam Howell, and Cole Kelly. And for some of the position groups, I'll give you guys who I think is going to make the roster. Some of them I won't, and I'll do that in a separate video later on in the in the off season. But overall, I think this is a solid quarterback room. Not amazing, but much better than it was last year. You got Carson Wentz, Heinicke, Howell, and Cole Kelly. I think it's obvious the quarterbacks are going to make the team: Wentz, Heinicke, and Howell, and then Kelly, hopefully, you can keep on the practice squad and no one, steals him away if he has a great preseason. I like this quarterback room. You got an average starter in Carson Wentz that sometimes can be above average, like he showed at times last year where he was like a top 10 quarterback, and sometimes he can be below average. He's, in the 20s sometimes, low 20s. So, it really depends with Wentz. Like his best year, he was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and then his worst year, he was one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. So there's a big swing with him. Hopefully we can get a little bit more in the middle with him. And if we can get average quarterback play, I think Washington will be very successful this year, or, much improved from last year. Then you got Heinicke. I think he is the perfect backup. Like some people kind of over-hate Heinicke and say, I don't want to see him ever take a snap again. Well, partly that's true because hopefully Wentz is never off the field, but I think Heinicke is the perfect backup. He's a guy that if you need him to come in for a couple games, he knows the offense, he can play well for some, periods of time. Like there's periods of time last year where he was playing really, really well, and there was periods where he's playing pretty poorly, but if you need him for a few weeks, I think he can produce for you. He knows the system. He has great chemistry with the other players on this team, with Terry McLaurin, with a lot of the offensive linemen, with Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, Logan Thomas, a lot of the players. He has chemistry with them, so that won't be an issue at all. The teammates love him, so, he's the perfect backup. And then you have Sam Howell, who I think will be the third string guy, and he's got a lot of potential. He definitely has some starter potential. I don't think, top tier starter, but he could be an average starter eventually. So, he's a guy that you're kind of going to want to develop this year. He'll probably get a lot of time in the preseason. And then maybe if Heinicke, because Heinicke's going to be a free agent after this next season, if Heinicke leaves, then you might have your quarterback in Sam Howell. So, your backup quarterback in Sam Howell, and you can take it from there. And then Cole Kelly, like I said, would be a nice quarterback to have on the practice squad for sure. So those are the quarterbacks, nothing major there. Then you go to the running backs. You got Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, Brian Robinson, and Jarrett Patterson. And I know they have a couple, others as well. Alex Arma's a fullback. I believe Jonathan Williams is on the roster as well. And I think there's a couple others, but For the most part, we know who's going to make the roster here for sure. Gibson, McKissick, and Robinson are locks. And if they keep a fourth running back, I think it'll be Patterson. And they've kept 4 running backs in the past as well. So I think that they can definitely do that if Patterson shows some things in, training camp and in preseason. Overall, though, I think this is a very, very solid group. I don't think it's elite, but I think it's an above average group that has a chance to be a top 10 unit in the NFL, depending on how Brian Robinson looks this year. You got Antonio Gibson, who was a very solid back for us last year. Wasn't extremely efficient, wasn't taking advantage of the great run blocking he had. But also, here's the thing. That is true right there, what I just said. But also, he was playing injured all year, which is another negative, but also could be a reason for his inefficiency sometimes. And then also the fumbling issue. So if you can correct some of those things this year and stay healthy on maybe a little bit less carries, and instead of getting, let's say, I'm just throwing numbers out there, but let's say he was averaging 20 carries a game last year, maybe he goes down to 16, but instead of averaging 4 yards a carry, which he did last year, maybe he averages like 5 yards a carry because he's much healthier, and that'll probably increase his total and will definitely increase his efficiency. Got J.D. McKissick back. I love that. Very good very good pass catcher. Also a great, blitz pickup guy, can pick up some blitzes for you, is a solid pass protector as a running back. Same thing with Brian Robinson, is a good pass protector as a running back. Solid hands, but he's kind of that bruiser, bulldozing running back who can run people over and isn't slow. I mean, he ran like a 4.5 40-yard dash. He's going to help you in those short yardage situations, but I think he's going to be much more than that. And I think that they should use him this year more than just a short yardage guy. Like, he should be probably averaging around close to 10 carries a game, from 8 to 12. I think that is a good number for him for sure. Like, some games, if Gibson's going off, then maybe Brian Robinson only gets like 5 carries. But if Gibson's hurt, or if Gibson isn't playing well, if he fumbles, then maybe give Brian Robinson some more carries. And I love Jarrett Patterson. I think he's a good story, and he played pretty well for us at times last year. I don't know if he makes the roster. I think he should, and it just depends on, does Brian Robinson add anything on special teams, because if he does, they might not see a need to keep Jarrett Patterson. So just something to consider right there. I'm going to try to go a little bit quicker so I can get to every position group, and that's why I'll be making videos on each position group so I can go more in depth, like 10 minutes, 12 minutes into each position group instead of a couple minutes onto each. So that's the running back group. You go to receiver, you got Terry McLaurin, De'Ami Brown, Curtis Samuel, Cam Sims, Jahan Dotson, Dax Milne, AGG, Kelvin Harmon, Alex Erickson, Jaquez Ezzard, Kyrick McGowan, and Markin Mitchell. So a lot of guys, a lot of receivers for sure. I think this is a much improved receiving core for sure. Got Terry McLaurin some help. And the biggest thing is, if Curtis Samuel is healthy this year, then this receiving core is going to be so much better than it has been in the past. And even if he isn't, it'll be better because of Jahan Dotson. And, I'm at least hoping it will, because Jahan Dotson, first round pick, and a lot of people think he's one of the most NFL ready receivers. So if he is, he needs to show out in his rookie year. And I'm not saying like 1,000+ yards, that would be great, but like at least 650, 700 receiving yards in his rookie year. There's a lot of different ways you can get him the ball, and I think that'll help out Terry McLaurin a lot, getting some attention off of him. But like your starting receiving core, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson. You got Terry and Jahan probably on the outside with Curtis Samuel in the slot. But the thing I love about this receiving core, you can move Terry into the slot. You can keep him on the outside. You can put Curtis Samuel in the slot, or on the outside you can put him in the backfield. You can have him run some jet sweeps. Same thing with all these receivers in terms of jet sweeps, but Curtis Samuel can actually line up in the backfield. Jahan Dotson can play on the outside, can play on the inside. I mean, like, these guys are interchangeable, and that's why it's like I love having these guys that have that position flex that Ron Rivera loves, because you can pretty much put them on any spot in this offense basically, and they can succeed, and that keeps the defense guessing a bit for sure. So I have big expectations for this receiving core this year. I hope Terry is able to produce more than he has in the past. I'm not saying like he hasn't produced. I'm just saying like the quarterbacks he's had haven't put him in the right situation to get that 1,200, 1,300 yard season. I think this year, with better quarterback play, he will be able to produce like a top 5, top 10 receiver that he is. Because I know he is that level of player. He just hasn't been able to produce like one because he hasn't had a even below average quarterback. He's had very, very bad quarterback play his first 3 years. So definitely an improved group for sure. I'm liking how this, receiving core is looking like, not even just the top 3. You got Cam Sims, who, is a big body receiver that, Carson Wentz is going to love. And, you add in, and he can play on special teams as well as a gunner. And yeah, I mean, he has good hands as well. So, he's definitely a guy that you like as your 4th or 5th receiver. He's a rotational receiver. Then you got De'Ami Brown. Let's hope he can have a big second year jump for sure. And not saying like going to 1,000 yards, but like just be a solid rotational receiver at the minimum in your second year, like 500 plus yards, and then build on that in your 3rd year as well. Just keep building. We don't need De'Ami Brown to be a number 1 receiver, or even like if he can be a low tier 2 or number 3 receiver at this point, that would be a win in my opinion. So those are kind of locks to make the team. Then you got Dax Milne and Alex Erickson and the rest of those guys battling out for those last couple spots. I think Alex Erickson will make it. We'll see about those others. An undrafted free agent definitely has a chance to make the roster. So we're going to go a little bit quicker here because I'm already 10 minutes into the video, more than that, and I'm not even through the offense. So tight end, Logan Thomas, John Bates, Cole Turner, Sammis Reyes. That's 4 right there. We'll see if Logan Thomas is ready for the start of the season. If he is, then he's obviously going to make the team. John Bates is obviously going to make the team. And Cole Turner is going to make the team. And then it's a question if Reyes makes it or not. And if they add a veteran, then Reyes is probably not going to make it. But if Logan Thomas is out for the start of the season, then Bates, Turner, and Reyes will make it. And that's kind of a question mark position if Logan Thomas isn't ready. We will see if he's ready or not. A little bit older. He's like 30 years old. Had that ACL injury in like November, December, maybe it's like early December. So, we'll see. We'll see about that for sure. But I like John Bates. He's a great blocker, solid pass catcher. And you got Cole Turner, who's a great pass catcher, not so good blocker. And then Reyes, who's very raw, but is a good blocker. So intriguing position group for sure. Let's hope one of these guys, Bates, Turner, Reyes, can emerge as a really good tight end too. I think Bates is kind of already there, but let's see him take that next step. Let's see if he can get some more pass catching opportunities. And Alex Arma, maybe he makes the team. He was on the team at some point last year, but I don't know if he'll make the opening day roster. Offensive line, I think this is a very, very solid group for sure. Your starting offensive line very likely will be Charles Leno, Andrew Norwell, Chase Roulier, Trey Turner, and Sam Cosmi, with Wes Schweitzer as your first backup guard. So left guard, right guard, or even center, he can come in there and play well for you. Tyler Larson's kind of your backup center. You got Lucas, who's your backup left tackle, right tackle. And the Sadiq Charles is going to be a guard, and he might even compete for that starting spot. But he's also kind of a utility guy, can play anywhere on the offensive line. So those guys are likely going to make the team. And Chris Paul, he's a rotational guy drafted in the 7th. He's going to be battling it out to make the roster, but he has an advantage, was a draft pick from this past year. They made an investment in him, and I think he has a chance to make this roster. We've talked about the offensive line a lot, though, and I think this is a really, really solid group. I think they did a really good job rebuilding this offensive line after losing Brandon Sheriff, and I guess it was their own doing, but releasing, Eric Flowers, they replaced Eric Flowers with Andrew Norwell, who I think will be better this year than Eric Flowers was last year, because he's playing in a system that was that he's familiar with a better offensive line around him, and with an elite offensive line coach in John Matsko. And then you got Trey Turner, not going to be as good as Brandon Sheriff, because he's going to be solid. And then you're going to have another year with Charles Leno. Sam Cosmi missed a lot of games last year. He's going to be probably take a step in his second year, step up and hopefully stay healthy. Really, really solid group for the Washington Commanders. I would not say an elite group. Like, I think 5th by PFF is pretty high, which they ranked us last year. But I think it's an above average unit for sure. Like, I would probably put it in the top 10. And it's good because it's a very, very cheap unit. Now on to the defense. So let's start off with the defensive line. We'll do it as a whole. This defensive line, we all know, this is supposed to be the best part of the team. Extremely, extremely talented. Chase Young, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, and then you invested in the interior of the defensive line in Phidarian Mathis, and you got some rotational guys in James Smith-Williams, Casey Toohill, Daniel Wise, William Bradley King, Shaka Toney, Efe Obada. So you got some guys around there, Casey Toohill. But this group, Jonathan Allen had a great year last year. Deron Payne was fine. Chase Young was disappointing, and he wasn't as bad as the stat shows, just like the sacks, but, he needs to improve. Like, I need to see him take over games, and I really didn't see that last year, so I need to see him do that next year. Montez Sweat was dealing with a ton of things last year, had the, virus, had a broken jaw. His brother unfortunately passed away. So a lot of just very unfortunate circumstances that affected him last year. So let's hope he can ball out this year. And then, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, let's hope they can just do the same thing they did last year. Especially Jonathan Allen, maybe Deron Payne can play a little bit better, but he was still very good. He was good last year. He was good last year for sure. But the big ones, Chase Young and Montez Sweat, both those guys need to play better this year. I think they will play better. And if not, then please, please, please get Sam Mills out of there. I've been saying it for over a year. I do not like him. Get him out of here. But, if these guys do fine this year, I guess you can keep him. But if they don't, there's zero reason why he should be on an NFL defensive line staff if he's not able to, get anything out of Chase Young and Montez Sweat. So that is just something right there. And then Phidarian Mathis, we'll see what he does. And it's, he's going to be the number one backup interior guy. There's no one really competing with him. Maybe you could say Efe Obada. Efe Obada is more of an outside guy though. So I don't know. I think there still needs some, needed depth on the defensive line. I like the first four guys in Phidarian Mathis, but I need another interior defensive lineman. Get Star Lutulelli or Akeem Hicks. And Ndamukong Suh, someone anyone. We need another veteran there. And then I would say another, backup edge rusher. I like Efe Obada. He's been pretty productive the last couple years, kind of as an edge guy. I don't know why they have him listed this far back on the depth chart. He's going to be the main backup if they don't do anything else. But I would try to add someone else. Melvin Ingram would be a good guy to get, in my opinion. So that's the defensive line. Biggest takeaway, they just got to step up this year. There's no other way around it. They have to step up. They have to be the best unit on this team. And I think they will. I think they will step up this year. They have to. They have to. The next group is the linebackers, and this is the one where they need to add some. Just look at these linebackers that we have on the roster. Jamin Davis, Milo Eifler, Cole Holcomb, Khalid Hudson, and David Mayo. Come on. You got two NFL linebackers on that list right there in Jamin Davis and Cole Holcomb. David Mayo is a backup at best. He's not a starter. He should never be a starter on your team, or else you got issues. And he's even as a backup, the next guy, it's not even the best to have him at that point. Milo Eifler, don't want to see him on the field. And then Cole Holcomb's your guy. He's your only guy on this list that's proven. He is at least an average starter. I think he's a good above average starter with, even better potential than that. Can play on the middle or the outside, probably better suited as the outside. Jamin Davis, he's going to be hopefully a good player, but we don't know that yet. Last year, he was not an average starting linebacker. He was not that at all. So he's playing out of position. And he's raw. So let's see what he can do in his second year. I don't need Jamin Davis to be a star this year. Just give me average linebacker play, and that'll be a huge jump up from what we had last year. And then again, with someone like this who's super raw, let's take another jump from year 2 to year 3 that's when you become a really good, solid linebacker. But you can't really expect him to go from one of the worst linebackers in the league last year to, or not one of the worst, but a bad linebacker last year to a superstar in his second year. You can't expect that. So this is a position I would add a veteran in for sure. AJ Klein, Quan Alexander, Alexander Johnson. There's a lot of guys that you can go out and sign that aren't going to be amazing, but they'll be solid for you for sure. Much better than what we have now. I think you have to address that position group for sure. Now on to the cornerback room. You got Kendall Fuller, William Jackson III, Benjamin St. Juste, Troy Apke, and Christian Holmes, so, and Danny Johnson, Corn Elder. So, a solid group. I like Kendall Fuller, on the outside. Same thing with William Jackson. Kendall Fuller had a good year, especially in the last 10 games or so. William Jackson, up and down last year, struggled with injuries, struggled to, fit in with the scheme. We'll see what he does this year, but, he's definitely got to step up. I think he'll play better this year. He needs to. And if he plays solid and Kendall Fuller does, I feel like our outside corners are in a really, really good spot. And our cornerback room in general is in a good spot. The slot cornerback, though, that is a concerning spot to me. And Danny Johnson, I guess, would be that guy right now. But I think he's a backup. I really do. A backup at best. He played okay at times last year, but I just don't see him as a starter. So one thing that, let's say Percy Butler balls out, is playing amazing at free safety. Let's say that's where he's playing. Could be Buffalo nickel, but let's say he's playing amazing at free safety. Well, maybe you put Percy Butler at free safety, and then you move Bob McCain to the slot corner spot where he played really well in Miami. That, in my opinion, would be a really good situation. You got Kendall Fuller, William Jackson, and then you got Bob McCain in the slot. That would be a very good cornerback trio right there. Not elite, but slightly above average. And with the defensive line in front of you, that should help them out a ton. So that's something that they could definitely do. Christian Holmes, I think he'll make the roster. We'll see about Troy Apke. Might be his last chance to really improve and actually play on defense. Strong safety, Cameron Curl, he's a beast. He played even better from year 1 to year 2. Great tackler, good in coverage. Everything about him stays healthy. He's one of the better safeties in the league. He probably, in my opinion, not in terms of Washington fans, but if I had to pick one player that is not really, no one in the league really knows much about him, and he's extremely underrated, that is Cameron Curl. He's a beast. And then you got Jeremy Reeves as a potential guy that could make the team. I don't know. We'll see. He always seems to be on the outside looking in. I think Bob McCain will make the roster, Percy Butler as well. So, Cam Curl, Bob McCain, and Percy Butler, those three are locks to make the team. We'll see if Bob McCain's actually at safety. And I think Derek Forrest will make the team because they invested, I believe, a 5th-round pick in him. So that's probably where you're going to be at, but maybe Jeremy Reeves makes the team. So I know some of those positions at the end I kind of rushed through, but I didn't want to make it over 25 minutes. So let me know what you guys think. And then obviously special teams right here. Trestway, Joey Sly, Brian Johnson, I guess, is the backup kicker, but they're not going to carry 2 kickers. I think Alex Erickson will be the kick returner and punt returner as well. And you got Cam Cheeseman. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new, and turn on those notifications so you never miss a video. Peace, guys.